Bholasingh. I'm at Tahiti, South Trinidad, with Mr. Gacia. He has been a past professor of the University of the West Indies, and he will generally introduce himself to you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gacia. I'm the retired professor of livestock science of the Department of Food Production of the University of the West Indies, and I have been doing research, both conservation and production, with neotropical animals or neotropical animal wildlife for the last 26 years.
You know this, neotropical animals. You explain that to me?
Okay. We have been using the term wildlife, but wildlife refers to non-controlled breeding populations without the influence of humans, but it involves both plant and animal populations. What we should be saying specifically for us in the Caribbean and Trinidad and Tobago is we should be using the term neotropical animals. The neotropics is the part of the world that is made up of the Caribbean, Central America, and the South American tropics. It is the New World tropics. The animals and plants that we have in this part of the world is very unique to us, and as a result we need to be very specific, because when people hear the term wildlife, it conjures up what they see on television and the mass media: elephants, lions, tigers, crocodiles. Well, that is not really what we have in the main in the Caribbean, particularly in Trinidad and Tobago. What we have are small mammals. We have an abundance of birds, butterflies, insects, and we have very unique animals that breed year-round. So I would not like to use the term wildlife broadly. I would like to use the term, and I would like to get people to be accustomed to using the term neotropical, non-domesticated animals.
Let's talk about hunting. Hunting is a method of harvesting of a wild species. And when we say wild, any animal that is not domesticated can be considered wild. In Trinidad, we have a few species that are hunted. They are hunted a time in the year that the law provides for them to be hunted. And the hunters, we have about 13,000 in numbers. They look forward for the hunting of these animals. How do you see hunting in Trinidad?
From an academic standpoint, hunting is one of the most fundamental of all human primeval activities. Humans hunt and gathered for food, for sustenance, for survival. Hunting in the modern day is for the harvesting of non-domestic animals, or animals that have become feral, and like in Hawaii, for example, feral pigs are a big problem, and they've had to have certain hunting programs instituted to control them. However, if we really pay attention to hunting in the modern day, Trinidad and Tobago is somewhat privileged, particularly Trinidad, because 1/3 of Trinidad is still under natural forest. That's one privilege. The second privilege that we have in Trinidad is that we have somewhere between 10 to 30% of the most important animals of South America and Central America. So we have a considerable amount. Trinidad and Tobago, we have a considerable amount of neotropical animals. Unlike the rest of the Caribbean and, well, Europe and North America doesn't have the abundance and diversity of animal life that we have in Central America, South America, and Trinidad. And Trinidad has the important neotropical mammals. The agouti, Daisy procta leporina, goes to as much as 8 or 9 pounds. And very many people would never have seen a live agouti in Trinidad and Tobago until they probably went in search of it, like at the university farm or at locations where people rear the agouti in captivity. But this animal is the most widely distributed of animals in the New World. The agoutis are found from northern Mexico, Central America, South America, Trinidad, Tobago, the rest of the Caribbean. It's not found, however, in Cuba, in Antigua, and maybe 1 or 2 other Caribbean islands. It's found in Trinidad, Tobago. Oh, it's not found in Barbados. Hunting is a very important activity. At the risk of sounding sexist, because I want to be gender sensitive, hunting helps a young man to become a man. Not in a reproductive sense, but in the sense that they learn to be self-reliant. They learn to exercise their muscles. They learn to interact in the wild. They learn to become aware, acutely aware of their surroundings. And hunting also brings not congregations of men together. It's not 100 or 200 men coming together. They may come in groups of 5 or 10, no more. I don't know any hunting pack that has 20 and 30 men. They may have 20 and 30 dogs, usually controlled by about 4 men. So hunting would not really cause the congregation of men. What hunting does, it helps to improve the bonds between the grandson, the nephew, the uncle, the neighbor, and the grandfather. In the case of Juggy, Mr. Bholasingh, when he gathers with his small crew, within a group of 10 men, there may be 2 women and there will be 7 men, and in that 7 men there would be 3 generations among the 7 men. So this hunting is a very important socio-economic activity, and at the risk of sounding frivolous, hunting for October, November, December, January, February, for 5 months in a year helps to avoid and prevent domestic violence.
Okay. Persons have been, there are a lot of people in Trinidad who are against hunting. They claim it's a cruel sport. But that is a real illusion or a misrepresentation they try to do. Because if it is a cruel sport, I mean, any animal, the taking of any animal life is a violent act. And all the animals that we have now, like for example the cattle and the goat and all these things were once wild. And we are eating those meat right now, you go in the grocery. That is where you are approaching. If you rear booty in a farm, to slaughter that animal is alright and is a nice thing. It's a good thing, it's permitted by the law. because animal husbandry is being practiced. Mining, you have different types of farms. You have sheep farm, you could have a goatee farm if you want. You could have a deer farm. So if it's domesticated, it is all right. Now, having these animals domesticated is not better than having them wild. It's not it is just for a matter of convenience. Because the same animal that you are having, the deer and the goatee, when you kill that animal, right, you take good care of them when you're mining them. You give if they need to go to the vet, you carry them to the vet. You take 10 or 11 care, you hog them up and so on. But eventually one Sunday you will come down with a knife and you will cut that same animal neck and you will eat it as if it is normal. So where is this type of morality that we seem to want to by the non-hunting population? Where is that type of morality? When it means that you are selecting animals to live, and animals must not live. The ones that are wild and in the forest, we must take care of them and protect them. But the ones that are in the farms and that we develop, right? We have pig farms, we have goat farms, we have chicken farms. Those animals designed to die, and we kill them without reason. And for example, some of our biggest festivals, like Christmas, for example. Christmas, the most animals are slaughtered. So it's an illusion. People are presenting an illusion that hunting is a bad thing. What's your take on that?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that all those anti-hunting people who eat chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Royal Castle, pork, salami sausage, all the different varieties of sausage and preserved meats, saltfish, fish, all these people who don't like hunting but eat meat in all its various forms are hypocrites. They are hypocrites and frauds, because in order to get chicken, the blood of the chicken has to be spilt. In order to get a hamburger, the bull or the cow has to be slaughtered, either by the captive bull pistol or by cutting the jugular. Those people who also are religious and they don't like hunting, they celebrate all their religious festivals, which involves the sacrifice of animals. So that's the spilling of the blood. So I think people who eat meat or eat meat products in various forms and say they are against hunting, they are hypocrites. More than that, I would also like to point out to you all, the viewing audience, that we have to step back a little bit. We have to step back and examine our social customs and practices. You know, most of the modern day staple foods, maize or corn, sweet potato, what we call Irish potato, cassava, all the different types of beans, tomatoes, hot pepper, are all from the New World tropics. All these staple foods come from this part of the world. The only modern day staples that don't come from this part of the world is wheat and a couple other grain crops. But the world is dependent on our neotropical plants. But you know something? It is the Europeans and the North Americans who have developed it. And they have embedded, one of my colleagues from South America, he says the chip that we have in our head is a European chip. We think like Europeans and North Americans, and for want of using a simple term, we think like white people. And we are more white than white people. And there was an important book written by a man called Frantz Fanon, Black Skin, White Mask. Although our skins are black, but we see the world through the eyes of Europeans and North Americans. We see the world as white people. We now have to start re-examining ourselves and ask ourselves the questions. Are we doing what is relevant to us and to our needs? Because for those people who are anti-hunting, well then they should eat no meat. And all the conservationists should become vegetarians. It's only when you take your belief to the extreme, then you are being honest. And I think that we have to have balance. We have to recognize that hunting is one of our oldest skills. And you know, if you have a skill and you don't use it, you lose it. Also, hunting in the modern day is a form of recreation and exercise. And it also is a very important socialization process for young human beings.
On the 14th and the 15th, on the 14th and the 30th of September, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, he made a media release to the effect that the sale of hunting permits would cause gathering of people, and the gathering would be conducive to the COVID spread. My suggestion on that is, if you want to, you're so concerned about COVID, which can happen. You can have you can sell your hunting permits without congregation. All it takes is regulation, in that you put people 5 feet apart or 6 feet apart, and you attend to them and let them go. Like, for example, look at what is happening in the banks. If you go on the bank, they go in the bank at the mountain, people are 5 feet apart and they are in the bank, and you allow sufficient to come in, and you allow when they are attended, then you allow more to come in. You can regulate that at the sale of the permits. All it takes is good administration, right? And now this is the COVID time. We all have to work towards that, but we can't go and blank off by preventing people from a bona fide sport, right? This sport, while talking about hunting, we have even PAHO talks about the virus. The virus is going to die with the outdoor sports, and where people are spaced out, right? The government is taking advice from PAHO. Why they are not taking these advice? The advice what they tell you that you will go there and get, when you space out is this type of sport, hunting. So something is happening in there that does not look too well. That is the most I can say. In terms of, like, if you want to close the hunting season, don't use COVID as an example. Just say, well, look, we can manage for some other reason that you want to close. Use that, but leave COVID alone. What do you think about that?
Well, Mr. Bholasingh, that question is a curveball. It's a question that troubles me, but at the same time, it's a question that opens up a Pandora's box. Because if we take him literally, that the sale of hunting permits is causing gatherings, and as a result he does not want to sell hunting permits. I think he's been a bit of a hypocrite, because every Saturday morning in front of his office there are tents erected for a farmers market which promotes gathering of people every Saturday morning. I rest my case.
So what you're saying, Gary, is whatever these fellas want to do, they do. They don't really have a logical sort of an explanation, but they're just using that type of the sale of permit for as an excuse to close the season, technically, or to sell permits. Because if they don't sell you a permit, you can't go to hunt, because it is illegal. Another thing that I wanted to say is that you're talking about, when we talk about sale of permits, if we are in such a state, we have reached such a position that you believe that the sale of permit is causing the congregation, why don't you allow the hunters to hunt freely? Hunters have a legal expectation to hunt. They mind dogs. They have a lot of dogs. They have a lot of people. Their family expect to see them out, and because they enjoy this type of thing. Now you are burdening us with the question of stay home, wash your hands with soap and water, use a barrier, right, face mask and all these things. We are doing all that. In spite of all that, COVID is still spreading, which we expect it to spread. But now you are saying, in a sport that really could liquefy or show or dilute the activity of men. We have almost 13,000 hunters, and when you multiply them in family, they are much more. 13,000 multiplied by 10, right? Those are the type of people we're talking about. You are asking them to stay home, not to go in the forest where they are accustomed to and recreate as they go. Like in the forest, as we talk about, as you talked earlier about the exercise. Once you're in the forest, you go into the forest, you have to come out. There's no transport in there. No transport bringing you out, You have to go in the forest and come out. That is forced exercise, right? And I mean, the question, as you rightly said before, you could hunt between 2 and 5 persons, or you can hunt by even 1 person, right? And you are diluted because you're far from other people, right? Most of the times you're far from other people. So I want to say that, I mean, based on what you're saying and what I'm saying, is a matter of selecting who is in power, select what they want, and they seem to be selecting certain type of activity. For example, motorsports get permission to hold the sports day. We had the golf people get their golf rallies, but the hunters have to wait. We still have to wait and see. So the system seems to be very biased, right? Right.
Yes, Mr. Bholasingh, you made a, yes, Joggy, you made a very important point there about the selectivity of the policymakers. However, I would also like to add that besides the social aspect of hunting in the making of young men better men, in teaching young persons cooperation through example and leadership by the older hunters in the group, I think that hunting also provides a very important social and economic outlet for rural communities. There are very many rural households. You and I did some numbers on that about 5 years ago in the hunting camp down in Mora Valley. Yeah. And the point about it is that hunting for many rural families is a very important source of income and food. Because when a rural man and his son, or he and his nephew, go to hunt, they get food. They also get part of this spoil that they would sell to people from non-rural communities. Because I can't get an agouti in Utahiti or in Chanflair. I have to go Mora Valley, Tableland, by you, go and hunt. Or, if we don't get, then we could buy it from somebody in the community. So the sale of this agouti by a rural hunter affords him the opportunity to at least buy oil, flour, sugar, and some cheese for his family. Because this agouti would sell for about anywhere from $150 to $400. And iguana would sell for anywhere from $150 to $400, depending on the size. And what that does, as simple as it is $400 moving from a urban household pocket to a rural household pocket. And that is one of the most fundamental principles of economics, the circulation of money. And right now, under the COVID, we have a problem in money circulation. So, in fact, if rural communities are allowed to hunt during the normal hunting season, we will also be stimulating rural economics.
Mr. Gacia, for the discussion that we have had on the various topics we have talked about this morning. And it is always nice talking to you. And it's always nice talking to you about wildlife. You seem to be one of the fellows who is properly researched and you're willing to share the information.
Yeah, as a retired professor of livestock science at the University of the West Indies, it's my privilege to have spent the last 3 hours with you today, and I hope that we could continue to collaborate and that my information and the information of all my students will continuously flow onto the websites and the internet via the Southeastern Hunters Association. Again, thank you.